Hello, A10. So the last video was theme 1 and just introducing the novel and the prophetic nature regarding Ender's Game. We're going to focus on waging war without a conscience and the just war theory. Now the last video was 7 minutes and 1 second. I just thought that was interesting, and then it brought me to think of NCC 1701D, the Starship Enterprise, and the monologue that I had mentioned earlier. So, that's how my mind works. Anyways, so let's get back to the course outline booklet and page 16, theme 2, waging a war without a conscience. If you have a conscience, that means you have morals, you have values, you know what's right from wrong, and so on and so forth. And if you do a wrong, then you know, and it's bugging you, it's maybe you're losing sleep or it's eating away at you, that kind of stuff. So how do you fix it? Well, through apology, through help, mending the fence, so to speak, that kind of thing. But if you do things without a conscience, and that means you don't care what happens to those around you, you only care about yourself, and so your morals are skewed or you don't have any. So we have a lot of examples in history and even what's currently in the world of people who just think about themselves and they don't have a conscience. And so now we have a war that's being waged without a conscience. And in this novel, Ender's Game, the political governing force is waging a war against an alien force without conscience. They don't care who they're affecting and who's how they're how it's going to impact the world, that kind of stuff. They just want to ensure that the buggers never come back, and they've been able to totally take them out of the picture, just like, remember in Avengers. Okay, so history repeats itself. I talked about that many times. So if you look at historical events, what's happening now, and look for its comparison or something similar, you will find that what happened there is happening again, just different players, different location probably, but it's happening again. Especially with this pandemic. We've had pandemics before, and it impacted the world greatly. How did the world come together? That kind of stuff. Did we learn from that experience so we can handle this situation better? That kind of thing. This war is focusing on countries, its leaders wanting more power, land, status, by fighting in wars with other countries or with their own people just to get what they want. And there is population control. There is using children as tools of war. We'll talk about that later on, just to get what they want. So they want the buggers gone. Okay, they want them out of the picture. There is a group of people that are angry at the fact that the buggers came to Earth and almost decimated the planet, but through a miraculous event, the humans were victorious, and we'll find out more about that later. And then they left. We haven't seen them for 50 odd years now. So why are you developing a society, a world where it's militaristic and you're using children as tools for this eventual war that's going to be waged against the buggers? So these leaders want to destroy problems and threats and hope no one will be able to understand the real reasons behind the fighting. So there's been groups that believe that the Holocaust didn't happen. The Neoplanet Wars, the dark side of exploration, how countries explored the world, or individuals explored the world, but we only hear the one side of the story. We don't see the impact of exploration on the people that they encounter, and so on and so forth. So if you look at our indigenous cultures as well, how did exploration impact their society, their culture, their language, and so on and so forth? St. Augustine created the just war theory, where there are situations where war is needed to rid the world of evil. The theory had its origins in Christian theology. So there's three criteria for just war. War needs to be started by a legitimate authority, so a proper leader, preferably somebody who's been voted in democratically. War needs to have just cause, so there has to be a good reason for it, and war must be fought with the right intentions. So you mean what you're going to do, you mean it. The principle of just war theory incorporates those three points from St. Augustine, but there are steps. So you've discussed it, you've exhausted all conversation, solutions, stuff like that, and it's not getting you anywhere. So your last resort is to use force. Okay, so now you move on to, okay, we've decided we're going to use force. Now, do we have a leader that's going to lead us through this? Okay, so just war is waged by a legitimate authority. So somebody who's been, again, voted in, or is the spokesperson for the world and that kind of stuff. Just cause is good reason. The good reason would be there was a wrong that you've experienced and suffered, and so now after you've exhausted all conversation, trying to compromise, trying to mend the fence, that kind of thing, yes, we are going to war. Now, you've made a decision to go to war. What's your probability or chance of success? Okay, do you have the means, the resources, the desire to go to war? And hey, it might be a longer war. Are you ready for that? World War I, they thought they were going to be back in 1 year, and then they'll have peace. But it went longer than they had hoped, and a lot of people were affected, and many people died, lost their lives for freedom. And that was what they were fighting for, was for freedom, for peace. But that sacrifice paved the road for us to have peace and freedom, but it was a high price to pay. So their probability of success, chances, will you win this war? And right intentions. Are you going to war for the right intention? And okay, peace and freedom, right intention. But keep that in mind. Proportionality, how equal is it? Use the only amount of force that's absolutely necessary. You don't just pummel a country just for the sake of finishing them off like that. How much force do you really need to achieve your goal of success or probability of success by increasing it through this proportionality approach? Civilian casualties. How many people who weren't soldiers died? That's your collateral damage. There's infrastructure as well, but the infrastructure you can always rebuild, but you can't bring back loved ones who perished in war, and there's too many examples of that happening in our world today, where families have been separated, broken up, destroyed because of conflicts that are happening in the world. So that has to be taken into consideration before you even go to war officially. So there's your just war theory. If you want to incorporate that into a project idea, that would be awesome. Make your references to the novel itself, not the movie. You can be inspired by the movie again, but the novel, break it down accordingly. You do not have to do this assignment number 3. It would have been a really good one to do in class, but if you want to take that on though, let me know, and I can incorporate it somehow into your mark. But this is just keep this in mind while you're reading it. Okay, so we'll take a theme 3, the effects of video games on children, later on, and discuss the connection to video games and so on and so forth. All right, so, but that'll be sometime next week. All right, so for now, you've got your first taste of Ender's Game. Let's get you started. And if you have any questions, again, please let me know. These videos are also downloaded on YouTube on the Heskin ELA channel, so check that out as well if you do not have access to Google Classroom. All right, take care, be safe.